Subtitle recognition failed. To master the divine art, one must first castrate oneself. Starting off with a technique in art like this, what would you do? My name is Shen Tian. I inexplicably crossed over into the body of this unlucky guy who shares the same name. The original host was the 13th prince of the great empire, whose mother died during childbirth on the day he was born. At the age of 6, the original owner raised a beautiful spiritual pet, the flame spirit bird, which ended up drowning in the imperial garden. At 8, he planted a precious purple dream ephemeral flower, only for it to be uprooted by mischievous children. When he was 9, he entered the Imperial Academy along with many other princes, but on the very same day, the academy burned down. By the time he was 16, he had experienced his 88th chi deviation and died on the immortal cultivation path. And now, having inherited the original owner's body, although I've gained a handsome appearance, what on earth is this thing on top of my head? But what's on top of my head is black. Could this be the legendary ominous sign of darkening between the eyebrows? Other transmigrators have golden, shining protagonist auras above their heads, but what is this thing on mine? It's even emitting black energy. I feel like going out with it might easily get me struck by lightning. I'm probably not the real protagonist, right? With this kind of misfortune halo, and I'm supposed to be cultivating immortality? One careless move and I might even choke to death while eating. So I've decided to be a couch potato for a month to recuperate. Going out is out of the question. Until I fully recover, only by staying safely in bed can I ensure my life is secure. Misfortune just can't catch up with me. However, after just one night I realized I was being too naive. No phone, no computer, not even internet. Such a life seems utterly meaningless. No, life is precious. Freedom is even more valuable. Seeing me all dressed up and ready to go out, the eunuchs and palace maids around all grew tense. They instinctively kept their distance. I also saw halos above their heads. Could this be the special ability I gained from time traveling? I noticed that their halos are actually different. The ordinary palace maids have white circles above their heads. And the halos of this supervisor and eunuch Gui are both green. People with good luck have green halos. Suddenly, I noticed a little eunuch with a red halo above his head. This mere little eunuch with such a flashy halo on his head. Could this guy be the legendary son of fate? My eyes instantly lit up and I followed right behind him. The little eunuch spotted me and immediately knelt down. I told him not to be afraid and asked for his name. But upon hearing my words, the little eunuch grew even more frightened and kowtowed several more times. Your humble servant, Qin Gao, begs for forgiveness if I have offended you, Your Highness. I stepped forward and helped him up. I looked at the halo above his head. I noticed that this halo was not only dazzlingly bright, but through it, I could actually see the imperial study of the palace and a book titled Great Flame Calendar on the shelf. Just as I was about to look further down, the scene suddenly cut off with a snap, and I gradually came back to my senses, thinking to myself that there must be a big secret hidden in the Great Flame Calendar, possibly related to Qin Gao's red halo. So I immediately headed to the imperial study. I found this Great Flame Calendar in the imperial study. This book is likely a great opportunity that belongs to Qin Gao. If I were to seize this little eunuch's opportunity, would my own chances improve? With that thought, I immediately took the book and went to the bronze mirror to see if my bad luck aura had disappeared. The result was still the same, it remained black. Could it be that I haven't truly grasped the opportunity so fate hasn't changed? It seems I must first uncover the secrets of this book. So I studied this book for 3 whole days and found that it's just an ordinary history book without any illustrations. Could it be that I'm just unlucky, so I can't uncover the secrets of this book? I refuse to believe it. I won't step out until I uncover the secrets of this book. After all, with my terrible luck, the book might just disappear if I step out. So I spent another 3 hours reading but still ended up with nothing. As Uncle Gui walked toward me, a sudden inspiration struck. Yes, since I'm having bad luck, why not try switching to someone else? So I immediately asked Uncle Gui to take a look at this book, saying that I felt there might be some opportunity hidden within it. Uncle Gui was somewhat skeptical and bluntly said that he probably wouldn't be able to find it either. As it turned out, the opportunity actually came to light. I searched for 3 days and couldn't find it, yet someone else found it with just a touch. That's just too real. Uncle Gui immediately recognized the origin of the item and congratulated me, saying, "Congratulations, Your Highness. You have found the jade slip of inheritance." Hearing this, I felt that my streak of bad luck was finally coming to an end. However, Uncle Gui reminded me, "Your Highness, look. There is also a line of small text here." Upon closer inspection, I realized it actually said, If you wish to master this supreme skill, you must castrate yourself with the blade. What kind of nonsense is this? I've been holding on to this lousy book for 3 whole days, and this is what you show me? But Uncle Gue seemed to recall something upon seeing the book's title. He then remarked, could this be the demon art created by the sunward demon sovereign, who once roamed freely across the eastern desolation? The sunward demon sovereign was indeed a peerless and fearsome figure from 3,000 years ago. Originally, he was just an ordinary low-ranking eunuch in the palace of the Eastern Great Kuan Empire, with an extremely poor aptitude for immortal cultivation. However, this man possessed great fate and by chance, discovered a long-lost fragment of the Sun Emperor's manual in the imperial study. Unfortunately, this fragment was missing the most crucial heart manual, making it impossible to cultivate normally. If an ordinary person were to force themselves to cultivate it, they would only suffer a deviation, leading to self-destruction. However, he not only possessed great fate but also immense perseverance and insight. Using himself as an experimental subject, he integrated several demon path techniques and arts, forcibly modifying the Sun Emperor's manual into a demonic version. This demonic technique not only boasts an extremely fast attack speed, it can also stir the desires and inner demons within the enemy's heart, thereby seeking weaknesses to deliver a fatal blow in one strike. It was considered one of the most bizarre evil arts of the demon path in that era. And thus, an ordinary, unremarkable little eunuch became the sunward demon sovereign. And most importantly, this technique and art has extremely low requirements for innate talent and bone structure, yet cultivates at an incredibly fast pace. Back in the day, the sunward demon sovereign, who had extremely poor innate talent and bone structure, relied on this demon technique to cultivate all the way to the nascent soul stage in just 50 years. This technique and art can truly be called a peerless demon technique. Your Highness, your luck has finally turned around. If Imperial Consort Lan were aware of this in the afterlife, she would surely rest in peace with a smile. Upon hearing Uncle Gue's words, I couldn't help but think to myself, if my mother knew I was practicing this, she might just come back to life out of sheer anger. And what the hell is smiling in the underworld? What the hell is my luck has turned around? It really goes to show, once an unlucky player, always an unlucky player. It seems my unlucky nature is beyond saving. So I thought about it. Then I handed this copy of Technique and Art to Uncle Gue, asking him to keep it safe and diligently cultivate. Uncle Gue trembled as he received the secret manual and hurriedly expressed that he was unworthy of cultivating such a peerless technique and art. Hearing this, I spread open the first page of the manual, pointed to those 8 small characters and said, if you don't practice it, then who will, should I? After hearing this, Uncle Gue reluctantly took the manual. Then he fell to his knees with a thud. With tears of gratitude he said, 20 years ago, this humble servant was falsely accused of stealing a palace treasure. It was Imperial Consort Lan who saved my life. Although this humble servant is of low status, I understand the importance of repaying kindness. Since your Highness has bestowed upon me the Sunward Demon Tome, I will practice it diligently day and night, without any neglect. I swear to heaven that as long as I have breath in me, I will protect your Highness with my life. Although I haven't practiced the Sunward Demon Tome this time, I am still plagued by misfortune. However, Uncle Gue is extremely loyal to me. He practiced the Sunward Demon Tome, which might actually help turn my luck around. Do you know what happens if a son of fate has his fate stolen? Qin Gao is in such a situation right now. Not long after I stole his fate, he was hung up and beaten by someone. It seems even his halo has dimmed considerably. So it seems I've taken a part of his fate away. But what on earth is that look in his eyes? Isn't this exactly the look of a revenge novel protagonist? The protagonist who has endured all kinds of hardships, survived great dangers, and exacted revenge on enemies, etc. Could it be that his enemy is me? No, absolutely not. I must nip this ending in the bud. Thinking this, I rushed forward immediately, stopped the eunuch who was carrying out the execution and said coldly, I'm taking him away. Upon hearing this, the eunuch trembled all over and explained. He broke the 6-leaf divine herb of the 6th prince. This is a capital offense. You dare to defy me? I wouldn't dare. It's just that the 6-leaf divine herb is, after all, one of the ingredients for refining the top-tier foundation establishment pill. Your Highness the 13th Prince, please don't make things difficult for this humble servant. Hearing his words, I also understood that for an immortal cultivator, this 6-leaf divine herb is indeed more important than a mere eunuch. After thinking it over, there's no use in making things difficult for him. So I turned to him, waved my hand and said, I see. In that case, I'll go personally to ask 6th brother for mercy. But I hadn't taken more than a few steps when it occurred to me. This sixth prince doesn't seem like an easy person to talk to. If he were to attack me directly, following the usual tropes of immortal cultivation novels, at this moment, a great battle is inevitable. With my luckless, fragile body, I'm no match at all. But since I've already said it, I have no choice but to push through. To my surprise, as soon as I reached the door and before I could say anything, a voice from inside said, "Let's skip the meeting. I'm in seclusion and cannot be disturbed." Hearing this, I was stunned. I thought the sixth prince was supposed to have a bad temper? Wasn't I supposed to face a big battle? What on earth is going on now? And at this moment, Qin Gao was also released. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly, thinking how much hatred and resentment it must take to fight like this. It's just too brutal. I decided to ask Brother Lu again if he could spare some more healing celestial herb. Just then there was a sharp whooshing sound. A Dan pill flew out from inside the house. I caught the Dan pill firmly in my hand. Then I turned toward the room and called out, "Got it, thanks, Brother Lu." But little Lee behind me couldn't hold back any longer. "Your Highness, this rejuvenation pill is incredibly precious. How could you use it on such a lowly servant?" Hearing his words, I turned around angrily and snapped, "What, do you have a problem with that?" "I wouldn't dare." Little Lee quickly replied, "I wouldn't dare." But no sooner had I left, he began to stir up trouble with the sixth prince inside the room, saying, "Qin Gao, that servant, has committed a capital offense. Your Highness is letting him off so easily. If this were to get out, I'm afraid it would damage your Highness's dignity." Upon hearing this, the sixth prince inside the room said with a proud expression, "Compared to the long path of immortal cultivation, worldly disputes and royal prestige are but fleeting clouds. Why bother? I am on the verge of foundation establishment. Once successful, I can be accepted into the great white celestial grotto, and from then on my path to immortality will be smooth and limitless. At this critical moment, it's not appropriate to have conflicts with him." To put it bluntly, he was worried that I might pass on bad luck to him, causing his breakthrough to fail. Little Lee immediately understood and quickly started flattering him. At this moment I looked at Qin Gao on the bed, unsure of how to deal with him. Such people with their own protagonist aura also come with a natural hatred aura. If they don't bring misfortune to their parents, masters, or sect, can they even be called the protagonist template? Such a thing absolutely must not happen. I can't let him be the death of me. At this moment the awakened Qin Gao saw me, his eyes shining brightly as he stared at me, and he even started to stammer a bit when speaking. Then, seeing me personally feed him medicine, that really left him at a loss for what to do. He looked at me with a bewildered expression and asked why I was saving him. I first forced the Dan pill into his mouth. Then I waved my hand and said, "Because you and I are connected by fate. From now on you will stay at Orchid Heart Palace. There's no need for you to work. Just stay here quietly and be available whenever I need to find you." Upon hearing my words, Qin Gao was completely stunned, but his mind had already wandered to the wrong place. The prince wants to be able to find me any time? At the thought of this, he immediately broke down and burst into tears. He quickly hugged his head, crying and shouting, "This servant cannot do it." I was also a bit stunned by his reaction, completely clueless about what was going through his mind. But I still turned to Uncle Gue and instructed, "Later, make a copy of the Qi refining chapter from the Sunward Demon Tome for little Gao to cultivate. Also, go prepare a room for little Gao in the courtyard." After hearing my arrangements, Qin Gao immediately knelt and said, "Thank you, Your Highness. This servant will surely serve you faithfully, repaying your kindness even as an ox or a horse." Seeing this, I quickly urged him to lie back on the bed. At the same time, I began to ponder in my heart. After all, the Sunward Demon Tome was originally his destined opportunity. I was merely doing him a favor in passing. If he truly rises to power in the future, it would be good to have another ally to rely on. But as soon as this thought crossed my mind, the halo above Qin Gao's head began to shine brightly once again, and it even turned a deeper shade of red. At that thought, I quickly picked up a mirror to take a look. Indeed, my unlucky aura has dimmed quite a bit. Is it because I returned the opportunity to Qin Gao or shared it with him? Seems I still need to verify it. So I turned to Uncle Gue and said, "Forget it, Uncle Gue. It's better not to pass on the Sunward Demon Tome." Sure enough, as soon as I finished speaking, the halo above Qin Gao's head faded, and the halo above my head also returned to its original state. Then I turned my head and said, "I've thought about it and I'll still pass it on." As expected, just as I had thought, the halo above Qin Gao's head grew brighter because of this. Uncle Gue looked speechless, while Qin Gao was so frightened by me that he broke out in a cold sweat. I conducted a series of repeated side-to-side jumping experiments. I finally mastered the use of this halo. But this also terrified Qin Gao, making him tremble uncontrollably. He quickly expressed that, "Your Highness, perhaps it's better not to teach it after all." I glared at him sternly with a straight face. I patted him on the shoulder and said, "Teach. It must be taught. Not only will I teach you the Qi refining chapter, but I will also pass on to you the subsequent foundation establishment chapter, golden core chapter, and nascent soul chapter." Hearing my words, Qin Gao still dared not accept. And I pointed at him and scolded, "Your life was saved by me, Your Highness. You are not allowed to refuse or I will end you." As soon as the words fell, the halo above Qin Gao's head radiated a brilliant light. Is this the halo leveling up? Could this be the right way to enhance fate? His fate can improve, my fate can improve, even Uncle Gui's fate can improve. Indeed, the halo above my head has also upgraded to a dark red. Damn, after all this hard work I finally see hope. Seeing me suddenly burst into tears of joy, Qin Gao and Uncle Gui beside me were completely bewildered. Qin Gao even awkwardly said, "Your Highness, please don't cry. I'll practice, all right? Rest assured, I will work hard and strive for it." That's more like it. Besides, I wasn't crying, it was excitement. Uncle Gui looked at me, somewhat at a loss. Although he didn't understand why I was so excited, as long as it wasn't a case of going berserk, it was fine. And having found the solution, I felt as if the sunlight had become even brighter. However, with my current fate, I definitely cannot recklessly cultivate. It seems I can only seek the assistance of more people of great fate. But I'm so damn unlucky. I've been searching for days and haven't found a single one. Then, while I was wandering around the palace, I suddenly noticed something in a little palace mate's fate aura. It seems this little palace mate has the chance to pick up this luminous pearl. Thinking of this, I picked up the luminous pearl in advance and gave it to the maid. This caused the maid's aura to directly upgrade to a light green. This seems to remind me of a shortcut to enhance fate. I grabbed Uncle Gui and little Gao, and we immediately headed to the Myriad Spirits Garden. Speaking of the Myriad Spirits Garden, one must mention the spiritual stones that can enhance the cultivation speed of us immortal cultivators. The Myriad Spirits Garden is the largest trading venue for them, and also a place filled with limitless possibilities and opportunities. The most important thing is that there is a game here for gambling on spiritual ore. It can be said that one cut leads to heaven, another to hell. Uncle Gui is panicking like crazy, but who am I? This young master is betting that when fate arrives at the trading venue, he'll see the look in these people's eyes. I feel a chill running down my spine. Just at that moment, Tiny Spiritual Fairy appeared here. Who is Tiny Spiritual Fairy? She is the most incredible spiritual vein master, and just look at those long legs and that curvaceous figure. The pose she strikes is simply captivating. If you marry Tiny Spiritual Fairy, not only will you have a beauty in your arms, but you'll also never have to worry about spiritual stones for the rest of your life. But why can't I see her opportunity? Logically, if she were truly that divine, there should definitely be something displayed above her head. Could it be that she has no opportunity or is simply out of luck with good minds today? Could it be that my ability has failed? No way. I need to go and see to check if this Tiny Spiritual Fairy is indeed the person I'm looking for. But when I saw those big sparkling eyes, the crescent moon-like willow leaf eyebrows, and that delicate flawless complexion, I was convinced. A woman like this should only exist in heaven. A single glance back and a smile reveals 100 charms. The ancients truly did not deceive me. And right away, Tiny Spiritual Fairy went to ask the boss to open a spiritual oregon. The boss looked reluctant and whispered to Tiny Spiritual Fairy, "Last time you extracted an exquisite cauldron, which made my heart ache for half a month. Please, Fairy, go easy on me." Tiny Spiritual Fairy, however, said loudly in dissatisfaction, "How could the boss open the door for business and not welcome me?" This stirred up everyone's anger, and with public outrage being hard to defy, the boss had no choice but to give up. He, indeed, worthy of being my Tiny Spiritual Fairy. Her eyes gleamed with a golden light as they opened. She swung the hammer down with a single blow. The dazzling green light instantly blinded my titanium alloy eyes. It's green, it struck green. This isn't jadeite, you know. It's a rough spiritual stone worth 800 to 1,200 spiritual crystals. But why did the Tiny Spiritual Fairy add that line before cutting it? Once chosen, payment and goods are settled. Whether you profit or lose, no refunds or exchanges are allowed. Even though I'm quite shocked too. But perhaps this is her true capability, not just luck in mining. Then, Tiny Spiritual Fairy sold the rough draft to the boss for 8 million. Everyone was watching with mouths watering. At the very end, tiny spiritual fairy added fuel to the fire. Boss Song, the quality of this batch of goods is really high. However, spiritual fairy once vowed to only open one stone per day. This might even lead to a great opportunity. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire venue erupted. Just look at this incredible atmosphere. And I stared at her retreating figure, pondering why I couldn't see her opportunities despite her remarkable abilities. I felt there must be something unusual about it. Uncle Gue, watching from the side, kept egging me on, saying if I liked her I should hurry and catch up. Yes, yes, Chin Gao also chimed in repeatedly from the sidelines. I was speechless. Damn it, these two guys have turned into onlookers enjoying the drama. I snapped my fan shut. What kind of person do you take me for? How could I possibly stalk a young lady? But then Uncle Gue said that it seemed there was a sneaky villain was following Miss Tiny Spiritual Fairy. Oh, I see. Isn't this a standard novel trope? The villain kidnaps the beautiful girl. The male protagonist descends from the sky, beats up the villain, and then the beautiful girl offers herself to him. From then on, the male protagonist reaches the peak of his life. Protagonist's halo. Wow. Isn't this the great fate-bearer's halo I've been looking for? Let's go. Now we'll chase after them. Right after we set up our ambush. Tiny Spiritual Fairy happened to pass by the small alley. At that moment, a villain suddenly descended from above, blocking Tiny Spiritual Fairy's path. With a slight curl of his lips, he raised his hand and said, "Hand it over." Chin Gao, seeing this, asked me excitedly, "Should we make a move now?" I immediately scolded, "Foolish. Now I just need to wait quietly. What I'm waiting for is the great fate-bearer, the true protagonist's appearance. I've seen wine scammers, meal scammers, but have you ever seen an or scammer? I am Shen Tian, who is under the misfortune halo, originally planning to upgrade my fate with the help of a great fate master. But I was constantly tempted by my subordinates to play the hero and save the beauty. I'm speechless too. I could only helplessly explain that they were only after money, not taking advantage of anyone. Just then the robber said, "Spend the night with me, and I'll give you this whole bag of spiritual stones." Finally, a robbery for lust has appeared. My two subordinates are even more excited than I am, leaving me with no choice but to sigh in resignation. At the same time, I'm secretly anxious about why the male lead of the grand fate hasn't arrived yet. Tiny Spiritual Fairy, upon hearing the robber's words, angrily threw the entire bag of spiritual stones at him. "Nanny, don't you even resist a little?" Then Tiny Spiritual Fairy was about to turn around and leave. Wow, what's going on? Why isn't the male lead even given a chance to appear? Seems I have to step in myself. How dare you, scoundrel? In broad daylight, you dare to harass a respectable woman. Then I said in a very pretentious manner, "Miss, rest assured. As long as I'm here, I won't let this scoundrel harm a single hair on your head." The Tiny Spiritual Fairy behind me was completely stunned on the spot. Even the scoundrel felt baffled and looked utterly confused. But Tiny Spiritual Fairy, ungrateful, cried out loudly, "Where do I resemble a woman?" Embarrassed, I quickly said, "Miss, please don't focus on these details." However, when I pointed at the robber to ask for the return of the spiritual stone, but the Tiny Spiritual Fairy grabbed my hand and said, "Don't meddle in other people's business." As an immortal cultivator, how could I stand by and watch someone die? I declared righteously. The bandit, baffled, immediately entered a combat stance. Flames erupted all over his body as he charged towards me. Wow, this guy is actually at the chi refining stage. But would I be afraid? Just trash, that's all, Uncle Gue. Uncle Gue swiftly dodged and immediately entered combat mode as well. He unleashed a Kamehameha wave and knocked the robber to the ground. Then he kicked the robber flying, followed by a series of punches and kicks. In the end, he knocked out the robber to end the fight. Truly worthy of the name Uncle Gue with a fiercer flame. And only then did I realize how terrifying the sunward demon tome truly was. Then I calmly said, "Miss, you are safe now." Then I somewhat embarrassingly tried to claim credit from Tiny Spiritual Fairy, but she completely ignored me and hurriedly ran up to the robber asking, "Are you okay?" Yet, even though the robber was swollen like this, he still threatened to get revenge on me. Can I let him get away with it? I immediately wanted to continue teaching him a lesson. Tiny Spiritual Fairy was so frightened that she immediately stopped me. She even begged me to let him go. "This fucking pervert just harassed you and you want me to let him go? Are you out of your mind? Is this the legendary doormat saintess or something?" At this moment, Tiny Spiritual Fairy finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She sighed and said, "Actually, I am an or scammer." "What? Or scammer? The clown has been me all along. My name is Shen Tian. How unlucky am I, with this unlucky aura hanging over me? The first technique in art I find right at the start requires self-castration. While searching for ways to upgrade my fate, I ended up encountering an or scammer instead. Hehe, the key is they started fighting among themselves first. You suggest I team up with various shop owners to put on a show to attract customers. I said it was your damn dad who asked me to go over and be a scammer. Alright, I'm mentally broken. Wasted my expression. Leaving. But this guy actually tried to stop me from leaving. What's worse, he even demanded compensation. Before I could even react, Uncle Gue immediately. Stretching his limbs, he said, "Your Highness, should we silence him for good? Is it really that terrifying?" Even tiny spiritual fairy was completely stunned. She cautiously said, Is silencing me really necessary? I still want to keep working with shopkeeper song." Alright, today was just a misunderstanding. I thought you were teasing a virtuous matron, so... No, a maiden. I am a young maiden. You tease a respectable young maiden, and deserve a beating for it. Then I struck a flashy knightly pose and said, "Consider this a free lesson from me on your father's behalf today. We're even now, alright?" Huh, what kind of nonsense is this? What? But the resentment deep in this kid's eyes. It seems he's still not convinced. Tiny spiritual fairy, watching from the side, had stars in her eyes and murmured in admiration. So cool. And I thought to myself, it seems I can only use the final move now. I am His Highness, the 6th Prince of the Great Empire Shen Ao. From now on, I will protect tiny spiritual fairy. None of you are allowed to bully her. If anyone has any objections, you are welcome to come to the palace to find me at any time. Look at their stunned expressions. Damn, it seems that 6th brother's status really comes in handy. If I had introduced myself, I probably would have become the butt of their jokes. Just thinking about it makes me feel a bit down again. Both of them comforted me, saying it was just an accident. But was it really an accident? Uncle Gue himself doesn't believe it. Wait. Although my plan A failed. But I can still carry out plan B, hehe. When we come to the myriad spirits garden again, sitting on the bench, putting on the fake beard. My little stall is now open. This humble Taoist is from Mount Akina Secret Cave. Disciple of the Heavenly Secrets Venerable Shen Op. I have been sent down the mountain by my master to gain experience and search for spiritual veins and minerals for those destined to meet me. I guarantee that every time a spiritual stone will be found, and I will not take a single penny, giving it all to the destined person. I even came up with an advertising slogan myself. Follow this humble Taoist and buy spiritual ore. Next year your immortal villa comes with a seaside view. And my 2 subordinates were whispering on the side. Qin Gao murmured secretly. Given His Highness's fate, he is bound to fail in finding the spiritual vein. Meanwhile, Uncle Gue automatically imagined to himself, in that case, wouldn't the spiritual veins not chosen by His Highness have a higher chance of producing spiritual stones? Could it be that he's going against the norm? This move is brilliant. His Highness is truly clever. Qin Gao suddenly realized, I had no idea these two had such wild imaginations. At that moment, a middle-aged man ran over and asked, "Is what you said true? Then what if I follow your advice and choose spiritual ore, but end up losing money? Are you an or scammer by any chance?" Damn it, everyone trusts that tiny spiritual fairy a real or scammer. But when it comes to me who's genuine, I get doubted instead. What a world. But I still patiently said, "Of course it's real. If a treasure is unearthed, I won't take a single penny. If nothing comes out, I'll cover all the losses." As soon as these words were spoken, the whole place exploded. The middle-aged man instantly got pumped up and respectfully said, "Then I'll trouble the immortal master to help me pick a good ore." I took a look at the white halo. I shook my head directly and expressed regret, saying, "I'm afraid you and I are not fated to work together." Upon hearing this, the man thought I was a fraud and immediately flew into a rage. I simply responded calmly. I made it clear from the start that I only assist those with whom I share a spiritual connection. However, the man retorted angrily, "Just you wait, someone will deal with you sooner or later." I could only silently lament to myself that it's my own lack of opportunity. Is it really my fault? However, this minor incident did not dampen the enthusiasm of the crowd in the slightest. It even intensified further. A passerby remarked, "This Taoist only keeps repeating no predestined relationship. Could he be a fraud?" Another person then said, "I actually think this person seems like a transcendent master from beyond the mundane world. Otherwise, what would he gain by not accepting any money? That makes sense." But soon after, the management committee of the park arrived. It turned out that the middle-aged man had reported me as a fraud. And I saw this stunningly beautiful woman. I was completely stunned. At that moment, Uncle Gue solemnly reminded me, "Your Highness, this woman is at least at the foundation establishment stage. I fear I may not be her match." I just smiled faintly with confidence and said, "Hee hee. No worries." It turns out that being handsome really can be a meal ticket. The girl, who was so beautiful she seemed to be bubbling with charm, leaned in and took a careful look at me, saying, "This fellow practitioner doesn't seem like a bad person, huh?" Even the onlookers, the pretty girls, are busy agreeing, saying how could someone so handsome possibly be a fraud? That passerby uncle anxiously said, "Fairy, this person is definitely a fraud, I swear." "So confident, huh?" The woman stepped forward and said, "I am the true disciple of the great white celestial grotto Lee Lotus. May I ask, fellow cultivator, from which sect do you hail?" I clasped my hands in a slight bow. "Disciple Shun Op, under the tutelage of the heavenly secrets venerable from the secret cave of Mount Akina, greets the fairy." What the heck? Lotus has never heard of it? The uncle continues to stir things up on the side. Yet I simply said calmly, "My master prefers to live alone in one room and doesn't enjoy interacting with others. So fellow Taoist, do you truly possess the art of seeking spirits and severing meridians? How can you prove it?" "As genuine as can be, fairy. If you are willing, this humble Taoist will find a spiritual ore for fairy. Open it and you shall see. Didn't you say that for those without fate even 10,000 gold is worthless?" Hee naturally, it's because fairy and this humble Taoist are fated to meet. Wow, is this for real? Even the girl listening blushed. The onlookers around weren't happy about it. The girl just coughed lightly and said, "Fellow cultivator said there is a predestined connection with Lotus, is that true?" After receiving my affirmative reply, the girl was completely captivated, as if falling in love. She relied on intuition to conclude that I wasn't lying, turned around and immediately scolded, "Why are you falsely accusing him? It turns out that being handsome really allows you to do whatever you want." Meanwhile, the girl's subordinate was sweating profusely and said, "Miss, we shouldn't be so hasty before things are clarified." Then they also said to me, "Since you claim to have a connection with Miss Lotus, if you, fellow practitioner, can find 3 pieces of ore for Miss Lotus, and the value of the spiritual stones extracted is more than double the cost of the purchased ores, then our law enforcement team will naturally ensure justice is served for you, fellow cultivator." After hearing this, I shook my head and said, "I'm afraid that won't do. Although Fairy and I are connected by fate, I can only help Fairy choose 1 piece of ore." Then I looked up and said with an air of pretentiousness, "The heavenly Tao is orderly. All things follow their bounds. Words must not be uttered to the end. Blessings must not be exhausted. In all extremes, fate will surely run its course early." As soon as I dropped this pretentious line, all the girls instantly turned into die-hard fans, and even Lee Lotus became completely infatuated. Uncle Gue repeatedly urged me to pick a few more spiritual stones to win the girls' favor. Of course I fucking want to. The problem is, there's only one fate scene in her aura, isn't there? Amid everyone's doubts, I grabbed Lee Lotus and left, arriving at Spirit Sanctuary. The innkeeper saw us and still wanted to express a grand welcome ceremony. I didn't even bother to acknowledge him and directly ignored him. Then he went on with a bunch of nonsense about Ultraman Avatar Armor Warrior Dragon Knight. What the hell is this? But Lee Lotus was still busy defending me, saying it might be some kind of secret technique or spell. As long as I don't feel awkward. Then it's others who feel awkward. Finally, I opened my eyes and pointed with my hand. "That's the one. Wow, damn. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake?" I was completely baffled. So this stone is called Purple Blue Immortal Gourd. It was once the treasure of the Spirit Sanctuary. Its unearthing shook the entire Myriad Spirits Garden. It was even fiercely competed for by the high officials and nobles of the entire Great Empire. The price once soared to its peak. However, after being inspected by the spiritual vein master, it was discovered that this spiritual ore is indeed a great artifact of the immortal path. But the original essence within it has been completely depleted, meaning this thing is utterly worthless. Could it be that my skills have failed again? I stared at this piece of spiritual stone ore, lost in thought. Passerby said no one would even want this thing for 10,000 spiritual stones. Passerby kept jeering and mocking, and it almost escalated to personal attacks in the end. But Lotus Girl defended me on the side, saying, "Even spiritual vein masters can make mistakes sometimes." Then she also asked me to try another one. Damn, this girl is really looking out for me. Alright then, let's do it. The choice I've made, let's just go for it. But the law enforcement officers nearby were furious. While trying to persuade the Lotus girl, they said, "This costs 100,000 spirit stones, you know." They also threatened me, saying, "Getting involved with this 100,000 spirit stones could land you in prison for life." But would I be afraid? Not a chance. Just then an old man walked in. Hearing that what I wanted to open was the opportunity within the purple-blue immortal gourd, they showered me with a torrent of praise. Then they went on to say that this immortal gourd was born from the nirvana of a peerless immortal embryo. Only a truly destined person can discover a glimmer of life within it. Finally, she even grabbed my hand and said excitedly, "Little brother, I really regret that we didn't meet sooner." That almost made me fucking believe it. So it turns out this guy is actually the owner of this shop. I thought I had met a kindred spirit. But the boss's series of bizarre actions really got the onlookers riled up. Everyone thought I was not only a fraud but also an scammer. This scared the boss into quickly explaining non-stop. In the end, he even swore on his character that he had never known me before. And I just calmly said, if I were really in cahoots with shopkeeper Liu, why wouldn't I forge a few orders of explosive minerals to attract more customers? And I wouldn't be foolish enough to go to the law enforcement team and offer myself as an easy target, would I? At this moment, a contrarian jumped out and asked, "How can you prove it?" I say, "I'm your dad, how can you prove otherwise?" Then I clasped my hands and said calmly, "I have long said that those destined shall receive it without charge." Yet I still believe there is a great opportunity within this ore. Such calm and confident words made the girl admire him to the extreme. She believed me without hesitation. Upon realizing she didn't have enough spirit stones, she immediately pawned her personal sword to shopkeeper Liu. Although shopkeeper Liu was utterly shameless, but to show sincerity, he not only agreed to have the best stone-cutting master perform the cutting for free, he even promised that no matter what extraordinary opportunities were uncovered, he would not charge any handling fees. When the master stonecutter struck with his hammer, inside green crystals indeed appeared. Sister Lotus exclaimed excitedly, "Brother, something's coming out." "Wow, your words are so easily misunderstood, okay?" But upon seeing this sparkling green gourd, shopkeeper Liu hypocritically exclaimed, "Absolutely impossible. How could this be a rotten gourd?" The crowd saw it and kept jeering and cursing, while I just calmly picked up a sword. With a single stroke of my sword, I slashed at the rotten gourd. Suddenly, golden light from within the gourd flooded the entire hall. How amazing is this treasure that glows with such dazzling green radiance? The boss watched, beating his chest and stamping his feet, weeping bitterly. Flowerlight glanced over, giving me a meaningful look full of affection and tenderness. Who could possibly resist that? It turns out this was the legendary 7 Treasures Immortal Gourd, ranked 36th on the spiritual wood ranking. When I handed the treasure to the fairy with a smile on my face, Lianhua looked at my smiling expression and gradually became mesmerized. Then I said, although this treasure is precious, it is still just a seed and needs to be nurtured. Once cultivated, it can protect your entire Great White Celestial Grotto. But Li Lotus simply doesn't care at all. Upon hearing how precious this seed is, she insisted on giving it to me. Everyone was dumbfounded upon hearing this. I fucking want it too. But with my cultivation level, I simply can't nurture this seed. So I righteously and promptly expressed my refusal. Think about it, the only consolation now is that the fate halo isn't as dark anymore. The bitterness within is something only shopkeeper Liu and I truly understand, and I keep praising shopkeeper Liu's righteous actions. I called him a true exemplar among merchants in the immortal cultivation world. This has left the onlookers utterly impressed. Shopkeeper Liu could only say with tears streaming down his face, "It's only right, this is what this old man should do." But Li Lotus insisted on giving me the immortal gourd. He even suggested cutting the gourd in half so we could each have a piece. Whoa, is she actually serious? If you cut it in half, wouldn't it just become a ladle? Thinking of this, I hurriedly advised, "Lotus Fairy, you are mistaken. The celestial seed is priceless, but fate is even more invaluable." When everyone doubted me, only Fairy firmly believed in me. Could it be that Fairy feels there is something between us? Is our fate not even worth a celestial seed? It seems that these words have caused a misunderstanding for Li Lotus. But that's not important. What matters is that she finally agreed to accept it. But at that moment, a dark mist suddenly emerged from above, and a shadowy figure charged straight toward Li Lotus. At the critical moment, a figure stepped in front of Li Lotus, blocking tons of damage. Then the two instantly exchanged hundreds if not thousands of blows. As expected of the spirit sanctuary, To actually have a true master at the early golden core stage presiding over it. Unfortunately, encountering me, the ancestor, is still a bit too inexperienced. The masked man sneered coldly. It turns out the masked man was after the celestial seed. But the man blocking the way also sneered coldly. Is that so? Then he directly unleashed his ultimate move. The yellow river rises to the heavens. One sword parting the eternal blue lotus. Instantly, the entire space was enveloped in an illusion. The masked man immediately lost control of his body and plummeted down, completely trapped in the illusion. With a sound like shattering glass, crack, the petals withered, and the entire illusory space instantly shattered and collapsed. Who exactly is this person? How could they be so terrifyingly powerful? When the purple light pierced through the entire spirit sanctuary, a seemingly cool young man stepped on the body of the evil cultivator. His name is Li Longsong, the #1 talent of the Great White Celestial Grotto, nicknamed Blue Lotus Sword Lord. He originally intended to take a sip of wine to show off his dashing heroic demeanor. But then this girl said his looks were a bit inferior to Immortal Master Brother. That man who said he doesn't like drinking, I still prefer Immortal Master Brother, the kind of handsome man. Even worse, some people say that men who drink are unreliable and have a tendency toward domestic violence. This infuriated Li Longsong so much that he literally spat blood. He thought of looking for his sister to comfort his fragile heart. But as soon as he flexed his muscles, Lotus Girl then asked him to protect me. Especially Li Lotus, who even started calling me my Shun, and Li Longsong's expression changed drastically afterward. He kept trying to persuade Li Lotus. He found that even bringing out their old boss didn't sway her. This angered Li Longsong so much that he wanted to eliminate me. Li Longsong had no choice but to forcibly drag Li Lotus away. But Li Lotus started to act coquettishly. She also said it was love at first sight for her. She even went as far as to say it's the crystallization of our destined connection. In the end, the two even started arguing. I couldn't get a single word in edgewise, damn it. In the end, the helpless Li Longsong scolded her, saying, "Have you forgotten that all those who pursued you had their legs broken by your father?" But Li Lotus retorted defiantly, "If father kills him, I'll die with him. I don't care." Damn. I hear though. But I still timidly asked, "Will he really die?" Li Longsong, however, stated, "Unless your fate is earth-shattering." I see. So with my utterly bleak fate, I must be doomed then. Thinking of this, I had no choice but to brace myself and explain. The fate I spoke of is the fate of the mind. Crystallization is merely the crystallization of fate, having nothing to do with love. However, after hearing this, Li Lotus thought it was her brother threatening me, and immediately drew her sword to threaten in return. "Brother, if you threaten my Shen again, I'll show you what it means to die." I'm stunned. Is this damn immortal cultivation world something I opened the wrong way? Not only are there scammers, but there are also crazy fanboys. I'm only meeting you for the first time, damn it. We've only been together for less than 2 hours, and from fellow cultivator to brother, and now to my Shun, it feels like we're ready to die for love already. Is being too handsome also a crime? Li Longsong found that he really couldn't win against his sister. He suddenly changed his tune and said he knew my master. What? This is fucking made up by me. Is there really a heavenly secrets venerable in this world? Then how should I continue to make up the story? But Li Longsong suddenly sent a secret message to me. He threatened me, saying, "Cooperate with me properly if you don't want to be castrated by my father." Then Li Longsong tricked Li Lotus by saying, "Heavenly Secrets True Master is a young friend of our father's." And I, under the coercion of Li Longsong, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and say it. Yes, my master often mentions Long River Sword Venerable. And Li Lotus was persuaded by Li Longsong's smooth talk. She finally stopped thinking about committing suicide for love. Then Li Longsong sincerely suggested that I return to Mount Akina to find an auspicious day to formally propose. Wow, this guy's mouth release and acting skills are truly impressive. It's a shame he didn't become an actor, but it reminds me of a sister complex and a daughter complex. Plus my unlucky aura. If I go to the Great White Celestial Grotto, wouldn't that be a sure death for me? And Li Longsong to thank me for helping Li Lotus for the favor of finding the celestial seed. He directly gifted me a Sword Master sigil. Inside it, there is not only a presence comparable to the early nascent soul stage. Inside it, there is not only a presence comparable to the early nascent soul stage, but also a sword path avatar inscribed with a formation capable of transmitting messages across thousands of miles. This is the damn good stuff. For me right now. The Sword Master sigil is much more practical than the 7 treasures immortal gourd. As long as I don't recklessly seek death, I can pretty much do whatever I want in the great empire with this external incarnation. Thinking of this, I originally intended to borrow a sword from Lee Lotus to cut my finger, and let the Sword Master sigil recognize its master by blood. As it turned out, this girl not only asked me to call her darling, but also gave me the sword directly as a token of love. Damn, who could resist this? I just wanted to perform a blood pact to claim ownership. Hey brother-in-law, your glare is way too obvious. Would you be willing to accept a spiritual weapon worth 1,000,000 spiritual stones for free? Lotus Fairy just gave it to me as a token of love. Li Longsong's heart was racing with 1,000 galloping horses. He hurriedly left with his sister in a rush. I watched as that bizarre pair of siblings finally left. I finally fucking got away. I never thought that a simple phrase like "fairy has a connection with me" could make a girl overthink endlessly. Being too handsome is indeed a crime. However, in front of the 7 treasures immortal gourd, Li Lianhua's fate halo was already pure red due to his good looks. After obtaining the gourd seed, his fate became comparable to Qin Gao's. Although Li Liansong couldn't match Li Lianhua, he still had a red halo tinged with green. Both are major figures of fate in the cultivation world, and are certainly not destined for an early demise. I hope that when we meet again in the future, I will already be the son of fate. I secretly thought to myself by that time, I hope by then your dad can't beat me anymore. I'll take this jade water sword for now. It's just that this damn jade water sword is way too heavy. I haven't even reached the chi refining stage yet, so I can't perform sword flight. But after this battle, it has made me too famous in the myriad spirits garden. It even reached the ears of shopkeeper Song and his son. It turned into me manifesting a gourd emperor, and even helping the great white celestial grotto ascend to a sanctuary. And what the hell is a gourd emperor? Are you stupid or am I stupid? Is it just Shen Ao and Shen Op perhaps? Could it be the same person? Indeed, I just got beaten up and now this happens. Could it be the Li family warning us? Young Master Song speculated. And shopkeeper Song analyzed the first possibility, that something truly extraordinary was indeed unearthed. The second possibility is that the Li family felt tiny spiritual fairies' approach to live streaming sales is quite effective. Therefore, planning to launch Shen Ao to stimulate female consumption. Wow, these two really have some wild ideas. But the only thing he's right about is that we absolutely cannot afford to offend this person. And I definitely had no idea about the chaos happening outside. I just woke up. Uncle Gue also advised me to rest a bit longer. That won't do. I have to clear the Black Ring's name as soon as possible. And looking at the efforts over the past 2 days, it's already showing results. I can see the white spots bleaching out on the Black Ring. As long as I seize a couple more big opportunities, I should be able to completely cleanse my reputation and start fresh. I need to keep working hard at my little stall. It's just that these girls are way too enthusiastic. I see this frenzy of fans that's almost like a bustling market. I was originally trying to persuade the girls to be rational about chasing stars. As a result, the younger sisters have become even more fanatical. He's so gentle. He really cares about us. Then I'd better get down to business first. Those with fate stand on the left. It's just that the girl was being all touchy-feely with me. What's that about? Flower-like, what are you doing here joining in the fun? But heaven rewards the diligent. Seeing the many chosen ones who are destined to be here. My heart is greatly comforted. Then let's go. First, to the Sky Spirit Pavilion. However, I originally only intended to select 4 people. But behind me there followed a vast army. It seems that watching the excitement is just human nature. At that moment, shopkeeper Song and his son realized that I was actually Shen Ao. As soon as I arrived,